Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, we are back in the land of mana. As you can see, 2 battles completed. One in the Forest of Arcadia, won by the Regal Guard, and the last in the Mistoak Forest, won by the Lunar Knights. Alright, so guaranteed, our next battle is not going to be in the woods. There may be forest terrain, but it's not going to be in the woods. Here you go. This should not be a spoiler. This is day... Oh God, what is it? Day 3 of our Battlefields of Mana campaign. 31-day battle report challenge. So here was a die opened on day 1. Now check out my Rick Koeppen YouTube channel. Channel name in the description, where I am opening a dice advent calendar from Q Workshop. And today, this was day 1. Look at this die. Oh my gosh. It is carved with leaves and vines. It's just freaking gorgeous. So this, and it's a D10, which is perfect because that's exactly what we need to pick out where we battle next. So from now on, I think this is going to be our location die. So we're already using our advent calendar dice. All right, enough talk. Where is today's battle going to take place? It is number 9. Nope. We're not going back to the forest. God, and of course this die would want to battle in the forest. That's hilarious. But no, we'll leave this one. So it'll be a number 5 no matter what in terms of the battle size. But come on, we're re-rolling the location. A 7. Okay. And that's not to say we won't return to the Mistoak Forest or the Forest of Arcadia in the future. I just did not want the third battle to be again in the woods. But number 7 is the Village Ruins. Oh, that's exciting. So right there, try not to get any glare, but right here is the Village Ruins. And the Village Ruins is a tier 1. So a 5 on the tier 1 chart is 18 points. An 18-point battle in the Village Ruins. I'll be back after we set up terrain. Okay, folks, here is terrain. Just very simply, a single terrain piece in the middle of the battlefield. Now, there's about almost 8 inches of space on either side of this. This may, if you saw battle report number 5, which was in a village, this is almost kind of like the village ruins of that village. But because you had about 8 inches of space on either side. Unlike that battle report, though, where the village completely blocked line of sight, this Village Ruins terrain piece blocks movement through it, so the battle's going to take place on either side or maybe behind it, but it does not block line of sight. However, it does, just like a forest, provide a cover save, so +1 to all defense dice. So cover save, so it's like a forest was in the middle of the battlefield, but you can't move through it. So that is the terrain, and then I will be back shortly after I have built the 18-point armies for either of our competitors. All right, folks, here is deployment. Now, Lunar Knights of the Obsidian Eclipse won the roll-off to deploy first and go first. And here is what they have selected, noting again it was an 18-point list. 3 points worth of Axemen, another 3 points worth of Axemen, a 3-point unit of Bidowers, the Warlord by himself mounted, the Sorcerer on his own mounted, 3-point unit of Bidowers, 3-point unit of Axemen, and another 3-point unit of Axemen, so it's symmetrical. 2 units of Axemen on either end, with a unit of Bidowers more toward the middle, and the 2 commanders. Why? 3 units wide cannot get through here. It's just barely shy. So what's going to happen, and don't let the Regal Guard player hear this, but their plan, they kind of took a page out of the Bandit Marauder playbook from the Battle Report 5 in the Village, where it was very similar to this. They had Marauder skirmishers, we have Bidowers. Almost the same kind of thing. Troops that are good in close combat and have a bit of range. So their plan, they're fast too. So they're going to scoot up here right in the middle and launch shots at anything that comes close, while the slower axemen move their way up, eventually bypassing the Bidowers, hopefully, and then engaging their opponent. They're going to do that on both sides. Regal Guard, 18 points. 2 points worth of swordsmen, 4 points worth of men-at-arms, a 6-point siege engine, in this case a catapult, with the sorcerer and the warlord, both on horseback and on their own. Another 4-point unit of men-at-arms and another 2-point unit of swordsmen. This is one of the most defensive lists I've ever seen. Their plan is they know no more than 2 units wide can fit through here. What they're hoping, and they also calculated the longest range without a catapult is 12 inches. If they stick that catapult there, and you can't move through this village, this is 12 inches long, you aren't going to be able to hit the catapult. So they're going to block anything from coming up through here with these 2 incredibly defensive units. Swordsmen have parry. Men-at-arms have shield wall. And that's on both sides. So they're just hoping they can hold up whatever comes their way with these 2 stout defensive units on either side, while this catapult, they're counting on it to wreak havoc on the Lunar Knight lines. Now they put their warlord back here because there's nothing going to be back here. They figure if something does break through, they're going to need someone to protect the catapult, and that warlord may just be the one to do the job. And on the Lunar Knight side of things, they're not stupid. They know they're going to get bottlenecked right up in here, so that's why they have their lords also on horseback, probably going to try to squeeze through here, shoot up through here, and try to disable the catapult at some point. All right, the one thing I have not done yet is draft for warlord equipment, so let's do that now. All right, folks, and normally these equipment cards would be drafted out prior to deployment, because you never know, they may actually make a difference where you want your warlord to go. Now, in this case, the Lunar Knight warlord has chosen these. Again, 5 points of equipment per warlord. He has chosen Gauntlets of the Warrior for a point. He rerolls 1s, natural 1s on attack and defense. He chose the Amulet of Time, one of the 2 legendary artifacts, and that gives him a 2nd attack action. Guardian Shield for a point gives him dodge, rerolls any defense dice that fail to negate an attack die, and that's after rerolling natural 1s. And don't forget, warlords have a parry save. So despite the fact that he is attacking twice and a very powerful offensive figure, this warlord is also very good at defense. And the arm cannon gives him range 8. He can sit back there and shoot twice, thanks to the Amulet of Time. So he has a lot of options. And on the Regal Guard side of things, we have a piece of equipment I don't think we've seen in a battle in quite some time. So first we have Bodolph's Staff, the other legendary artifact. Again, 2 points, and that'll give the Regal Guard sorcerer 2d4 mana instead of just 1 each turn. The Axe of Legend for a point gives him Assault, so his 6s explode when he attacks. And then the Armor of Retaliation. It went through a little bit of errata. Originally it said, when wounded, immediately counterattack with half the number of unmodified attacks rounded down. And I thought, you know what, if he takes, 3 or 4, it's rare that a warlord's going to take like 4 wounds in a single turn. And even then, that would only be 2 attacks back unmodified. That just didn't seem worth 2 points. So we amended it. It is now the same number of unmodified attacks. So if he gets hit, for 4 hits, this is in addition to his own attack, he's doing another 4 damage as well. So we'll see how this combination works out. He's a very offensive, yet still defensive. People are going to think twice about hitting him. And that's in range as well. If he gets hit in range, that Armor of Retaliation is magical, so it has some distance to it. All right, so that is the equipment. That is deployment. That is terrain. Now it's time to begin the battle. And what I think I'm going to do is actually come back to you after Lunar Knight turn 1. I think I'm going to come back to you after each side's individual turn, not just after each round, but after each turn. So we'll be back after turn 1 for Lunar Knights. Okay, folks, here is Lunar Knights turn 1, just one hell of an advance. Before they moved, the Warlord went ahead and attempted a war cry on this unit of Axemen, which was successful. So that unit of Axemen now has an extra die they can use for initiative, attack, defense, whatever their heart desires. So both units of Axemen moved up their full 6 inches. The Bidowers moved up as far, I think they moved up, because they have a movement of 4, but they have Nimble, so they have an extra free movement. So they moved up, I believe, 9 inches, then had another 3 inches, so they scooted over 1.5 inches. You move half speed sideways. So now they're kind of, in the way, preparing for anything that can come up. They'll start shooting at them while these Axemen get through beside them. And then the Warlord just shot straight ahead. So he's definitely eyeing that catapult or, leadership over there, trying to tie them down. Over on the other side, the exact same thing. Bidowers moved up, and Axemen moved up as far as they could. The Sorcerer only moved up 6, so he could still do something magically. Which may not have been the wisest decision because he actually didn't end up doing anything. He channeled the maximum possible amount of mana for him, which is 4, but he wants to hold on to that maybe for a rainy day. All right, so that was movement, then magic. Oh, one other thing in the magic phase. The Sorcerer, who has had bad luck with arcane duels in the past, did decide to engage the opposing Sorcerer in an arcane duel and actually did a wound to him. He says he has pretty much nothing to lose, but this Sorcerer, of course, has the staff that gives him double the amount of mana, so they may want to target him. And so that's why they decided to go ahead and do that. And it paid off. It did a wound. So that was movement, magic, out of range for shooting, and no close combat. So we'll be back after turn 1 for the Regal Guard. All right, folks. Turn 1 for the Regal Guard complete. Essentially the same exact thing. Before they moved, the Warlord within 6 did a war cry on those men-at-arms. And was successful. So they now have an extra die. So swordsmen are faster than the men-at-arms who are slow. They're slow as axemen. So they kind of have a layered thing going on here. Kind of supporting the flank, if you will. And so that's what that looks like. Very nicely symmetrical. And then, so they stayed. The Warlord and the Sorcerer stayed. They figure those units are going to do what they got to do. Let's keep what we got to keep back here. And the Sorcerer did not engage in an arcane duel. He knows he has a lot to lose, so he's not going to play that game. He channels 2d4 mana. He channeled 4 mana, so he decided to cast a shield on, of course, the Catapult. Unfortunately, he only rolled a 1, so it's just a level 1 shield, but hey, it's better than nothing, and in the future he can increase it if he wants to. So that was that, and then shooting. The whole reason we're here today, that Catapult is here today anyway, is for the shooting phase, the ranged attack phase. That Catapult has an 18-inch range. So let me see if I can get my rulers here looking okay. So that's from the center of the... You know what? I didn't even measure this. I just assumed it was in range. Looks like that would have been just at the max range. So from the center of the Catapult, he put the template basically right over this guy in the front. And like this. So the hole was just over half of the base. That way he was still shrapneling that unit and also shrapneling that unit if it hit. It did not. It diverted, but it only diverted 2 inches. However, it diverted basically just like this. So ignore, this is a 3-inch ruler, but ignore that. It basically went from there to there, 2 inches, and look, it didn't even shrapnel hit anything. So even though it only diverted 2 inches, it still didn't hit anything. That's a damn shame, because that's, you only have 6 turns, you only have 6 shots with the catapult. Well, there's one that did nothing. Of course, there's still 5 more turns for it to absolutely wreak havoc, but that was movement, that was magic, that was shooting, and now we go back to Lunar Knights for turn 2. All right, folks, turn 2 for the Lunar Knights was interesting to say the least. Piled in, moved up. Not quite enough to get into base contact with the swordsman. That's how they planned it. They moved up knowing that the axemen would be just shy. The warlord, before he moved there, war cried those Bidowers and was successful. The Bidowers shot at these swordsmen, killing one. Same exact situation over here. Bidowers shot at those swordsmen, killing one. Sorcerer moved up to there. I don't know if that was the right play. He only did his half movement, 6 inches. He channeled a die. He channeled a man. He's up to 5. He still hasn't used any yet. He did win another arcane duel and did 2 more wounds to the sorcerer. The warlord stopped there and considered, who should the warlord target, the catapult or the sorcerer? Probably should have, I don't know, targeted the catapult, but he targeted the sorcerer, who only took a wound out of both of his attacks. And that's it. So that was moving up, no close combat, couple ranged hits, so a couple casualties, first blood to the Lunar Knights, moved up and some magic, and that's where we are. We'll be back at the end of Regal Guard turn 2. All right, folks, Regal Guard turn 2 was bloody as all hell. All right, so let's just start at the bottom, we'll work our way up. What did we even do down here? So we charged in everywhere. All the Regal Guard charged here, charged there, moved over and slid over so they would have favorable matchups. As you can see up here, the axemen just demolished the swordsman. The swordsman did, I believe, just a wound there. Here, a wound apiece. A wound on the axemen, wound on the men-at-arms. Down here, men-at-arms. Oh, God. I don't know if anything even happened to the men-at-arms. Or maybe they took 2 wounds. And then, yeah, a lot of wounds on the axes in return. And then down here, these swordsmen, I believe, didn't take any wounds. So I think a men-at-arms died there. And then these swordsmen took no wounds, but did wound the axemen. That, actually, the majority of the wounds on those axemen came courtesy of the catapult, which I positioned it over the back guy in this unit, so shrapnel hits would be here, but, just far enough back so shrapnel hits wouldn't hit them. But, of course, targeting this unit meant, it could divert that way. You never know. But what I should have done was moved it down a bit so shrapnel hits here and here. But I didn't, so we targeted them, killed 2 axemen, so that's actually not bad for the axemen. And the shrapnel hits were all defended against by the Bidowers. Now, up here, the sorcerer for the Regal Guard increased the shield to 4, so it's at max, so the shield on this catapult is at max. And also, with the remaining mana, because he channeled 7 mana. So 4 mana to increase the shield, 3 mana in a hit against that sorcerer. You may be saying, Is that line of sight not blocking? Well, number one, actually, no, because a spell is cast from any point on the base to any point on the base. So it's just clipping the two edges of the sorcerers and not hitting this defensive area. Unlike a ranged attack, which has to be center of the banner bearer to center of the banner bearer. But also, Pyrostorm spells give the defender no cover bonuses. Oh, scary. So he actually did wound that sorcerer with a wound. All right, so the battle line has been drawn essentially right down the center. The question is, what are these Bidowers going to do sitting back here? All right, it is moving on to turn 3, Lunar Knights. All right, folks, Lunar Knight, turn 3, fairly disappointing. So we didn't gain much ground down here. We lost a lot and didn't do a damn thing. I mean, it's just unbelievable how, even though they're the same dice, the Regal Guard consistently roll so much better. We broke away here with our Warlord without penalty and charged the Sorcerer. I can't honestly believe this. He was at what, 6 wounds? And we did a 9 dice Pyrostorm into him and did, I think, a wound. We had 2 4 dice attacks. That's 8 more dice. Did 1 more wound. 2 wounds out of 17 dice. That's absolutely insane. So he's still there. Because otherwise I was going to, again, focus on the Catapult. But I figure, you know what? That Sorcerer could just heal him or whatever. So maybe we just target the Sorcerer first. That should be not that big of a deal, right? And the Arcane Duel didn't do anything either. That's going to be interesting now that that Warlord's pissed as hell. And then up here, nothing too much on that combat. That's the one combat we kind of gained some ground on, is taking out that unit of swordsmen. But that's it. It was really piss poor for the Lunar Knight turn 3. Over to Regal Guard turn 3, now that that Catapult. Because if we had charged the Catapult like I actually originally did, the Catapult wouldn't be able to fire. But oh well, the Catapult will be firing. Let's see what ends up happening. Alright folks, Regal Guard turn 3. Did some wounds here, not much back. Eliminated those Axemen without repercussion. Did a bunch of wounds to those Axemen. We did a wound back, and then they braced themselves there. So it was, again, Regal Guard favor. I just can't roll worth a damn for the Lunar Knights. Trade-off here, this Regal Guard Warlord did 2 to the Lunar Knight Warlord, who did 1 in return, despite having double the amount of attacks. Their Sorcerer broke away and just moved up here. He's reserving 2 mana and used 4 to heal himself. Thankfully, only 1. It is now the halfway point. We are now moving on to round 4. Lunar Knights. This is make or break it time for them. They really need to get the ball rolling here. All right, we will be back after turn 4 for Lunar Knights. All right, folks, this was turn 4 for Lunar Knights, an overall mediocre turn as far as turns are concerned, but for Lunar Knights, it was pretty good. No, I'm just kidding. In all honesty, it was a fantastic turn. We broke away, I think took 2 wounds for breaking away, which actually pretty much hurt, but we charged into their Sorcerer, and it took everything we freaking had and multiple die rolls and just the luck of the gods to do 4 or a few freaking wounds. We managed to, and our Sorcerer took a couple hits from a bad Arcane Duel. But we finally killed that damn Regal Guard Sorcerer. So boom, he's gone. If we can just hold on now, it should be okay. But unfortunately, we're still not out of the woods. This Catapult's going to get 1 more shot off at least before we can get someone into close contact. All right, over here we already knew we lost that unit of Axemen, so that opened the door for these Bidowers to shoot and I don't think do a damn thing. Down here, you know, nothing much is going on. Up here, not a whole lot's going on. I think we did a wound to the men-at-arms, but we lost a bunch. Here, we finally actually crushed and finished off this unit of swordsmen. We turn to flank. If those two little guys can hold on, we will be in the flank of these men-at-arms. We'll be sitting somewhat okay in that flank. So that's where we are right now. But we gotta hold on against this Regal Guard turn 4. All right, folks, bottom of round 4, turn 4 for the Regal Guard. Pair of wounds apiece down here, not looking good for the Lunar Knights. Charged in with the men-at-arms, did a couple wounds. We did a couple wounds in return, but ugh. If we could, not take any more wounds and do at least a wound there, I know that's wishful thinking. Because we want to have these units, if at all possible. Regal Guard just decimating that unit. Oh, where's those axemen? The final shot of the catapult was unbelievable. It did 7 wounds or something. They only had, it did 9 wounds, and they only had 7 wounds left, and so it just completely blew them up. So that was a 3-point unit that just got exploded. The Warlord charged in there. We traded attacks. We're down to 6-6 here. They did not have a magic phase, unfortunately, since they don't have a sorcerer. All right. We'll be back at the end of turn 5 for the Lunar Knights. All right, folks. Second to last turn for the Lunar Knights. This is top of round 5. We braced ourselves, moved up and shot with our Bidowers into the flank of the men-at-arms. 6 shots, all +1. Guess how many wounds we did? A single wound. Hey, you know what? That's okay. Probably not going to get much more out of them than that, and we at least cut that unit then in half, so that'll be a victory point. But we're eventually going to probably lose those axemen with only a point left. Probably these axemen too. That's why we braced ourselves, because they're going to take 2 more rounds of attacks from these swordsmen. Here's the good news. We were able to break away with our Warlord without taking any damage. We charged into the Catapult. Our Sorcerer did a 3-dice Pyrostorm into the Catapult, doing 3 wounds, which eliminated its shield. And then our Warlord used its first attack to do a wound, and then its second attack to do 2 more wounds. This Catapult has 3 wounds left. We have 1 turn to do 3 wounds to that catapult. If we do not destroy the catapult, as things stand now, Lunar Knights have a slim chance of victory. It's not even a chance. We would have to not lose like that axeman, probably not even that axeman, take no more wounds on the Bidowers or anything. But of course, it is now Regal Guard phase. The only good news, Regal Guard now no longer have a magic phase and don't get to use their catapult. So let's see what they can do in melee. All right, folks, end of round 5, end of the 5th turn for the Regal Guard. They're slaughtering the Axes. Axes couldn't do much back. They definitely did a number on the Bidowers. Bidowers were able to cut them in half, though, or at least do a wound or something. I can't remember if they were already cut in half last time or not. And then they finished off the Axeman up here, which he almost survived. He just one of his defense dice failed. Otherwise, he would still be here. So they turned to face those Bidowers. And then he charged up, but look at what happened. In that duel between warlords, the 2 attacks of that warlord are costing him. Now, it's getting dicey, because the Regal Guard warlord has that armor of retaliation, so every time he takes a wound, he's doing attacks back, in addition to his own attacks. Thankfully, all that defensive gear that we have for the Lunar Knight warlord is keeping him alive. Again, 3 wounds left on the catapult, and now only 2 wounds left on their warlord. That's 11 points right there. Can we get them both? I don't know. We are getting our buns handed to us out here in the field of battle, but behind the Regal Guard lines is where we're doing the most damage. All right, we'll be back at the end of turn 6 for the Lunar Knights. Alright, folks, and that is actually game. I decided to record this last clip after the entirety of round 6. because of what happened during turn 6 for the Lunar Knights. You notice anything missing over here? Oh, that's right. So the sorcerer got off to a bad start, only channeled a single mana, used that mana to strike the catapult, and it did a wound, so that meant that the catapult only had 2 wounds left. So then in close combat, the Lunar Knight Warlord had a choice. Go after the 2 health Warlord or the 2 health Catapult. Well, the Catapults were 6 points, Warlord's worth 1. Plus, it's easier to hit. So he used his first, don't forget, he has 2 attack actions. So he used the first attack action and eliminated the Catapult. And then the second attack action eliminated the Warlord. The Warlord's final plea, using his retaliation armor, didn't do anything back to the Warlord. So Catapult gone, Warlord gone. And then, then the Lunar Knight, or the Regal Guard, had nothing. Warlord kill means the entire army's -1 initiative. The Regal Guard was able to eliminate the Axemen. This was, kind of a back and forth little thing, but nothing much changed there. This unit, what's left of the men-at-arms, charged into those Bidowers, but the Bidowers were able to whittle them down to a banner bearer. Oh, it was so close. They almost were able to eliminate that unit, but that's 3 points still on the table. All right, folks. So let's recap. Who is the winner? Well, it's overwhelming. I haven't added it up yet, but it's got to be the Lunar Knights by just an absolute ton. So let's get the survivors over here. I've never had the Sorcerer and the Warlord eliminated on a single side ever before. I mean, you got to hand it to the Regal Guard. They were handing our buns to us in the troop versus troop battles. In the end, though, I mean, it almost looks like it was fairly even, but that wasn't until the very end. Of course, they had to dedicate everything, their Warlord and their Sorcerer, to the back ranks. All right, so here we have the remnants of the Lunar Knights of the Obsidian Eclipse. Sorcerer with 7 HP. Warlord with 5 HP. Bidowers, still a full unit, essentially. No points docked from them. We have another halved unit of Bidowers. So 2 units of Bidowers. All 4 units of Axemen were eliminated. And then on the Regal Guard side, survivors, a banner bearer for a unit of men-at-arms, a hardly, very thrashed unit of men-at-arms, and half a unit of swordsmen. So what was destroyed? The rest of that 1 unit of swordsmen. Men-at-arms, I'm sorry. So almost a whole unit of men-at-arms, the majority of another unit of men-at-arms, a whole unit of swordsmen, half another unit of swordsmen, both the Warlord and the Sorcerer, and the Catapult. So let's add this up. This is the fun part. So Regal Guard, what's their score? Their score is 3, 3, 3, 3. So that's 12 points plus 1 for this halved unit of Bidowers. So that's 13 points. 3, 6, 9, 12. 13 points for the Regal Guard. Out of 18, that's pretty darn good, right? All right, so what is the Lunar Knights score? Well, the Lunar Knights score is 5, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 21 points. 21 to 13. So if they hadn't killed both the Warlord and the Sorcerer, that's 10 points. It would have been 11. 11 actual troop kill points to 13 troop kill points. So it was absolutely imperative. If they hadn't killed the Warlord, that would have been -5. So, God, I just forgot the whole thing again. So that was 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So -5 would have been 16. So even if he hadn't killed the Warlord, it would still have been 16 to 13. But he had to have killed the Sorcerer, had to have killed the Catapult. It's a good thing they got back there behind the lines, wiped out as much as they could, because their troops were not doing it up front. Oh my gosh. And it was because the Regal Guard had chosen the most defensive units. The swordsman's parry saves, the men-at-arms shield wall, which 6s explode in defense, and they're good on attack as well, +1 to all their dice. So yeah, they had fewer actual units, but the units they had were stout, unbelievably. So here is the fun part. Let's set this tripod down. Because, don't forget, this was a battle at the village ruins. So, we have some territory claiming to do, specifically as it pertains to the winner of the battle. So, if you recall, Battle number 1 was a Regal Guard victory in the Forest of Arcadia. Battle 2 was a victory for the Lunar Knights in the Mistoak Forest. And now, Battle 3, the Lunar Knights take the overall campaign lead with a victory in the village ruins. Uh-oh, folks. I'm starting to see a lot of blue on this map. All right, well, I hope you had as much fun as I did. This battle was intense. I thought for sure the Regal Guard were going to pull it out, as they typically do in my prior battle reports. But, I mean, come on. This was just insane. Well, thank you all so much for watching. And until tomorrow's battle report, who's going to win and where are we going to fight?